Good morning, Jolly Cruise family. My name is Jason, and I am the Jolly Cruise vlogger. Today, we're going to do a compare and contrast on the last two cruises that I took. Both of them were on Margaritaville at Sea, and they were on both the current ships that they have right now. And if you've ever wondered what it's like to cruise on them, and what it's like to cruise on one versus the other, sit back, grab your Coke, grab your coffee, whatever you want, and let's talk about them. In February of this year, my good friend and fellow YouTuber, Rob, from the channel Here Today, Where Tomorrow, and I went on a 4-night Margaritaville at Sea Islander cruise. And then last month in April, the wifey and I went on a micro 2-night cruise on the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise. Both the Islander and the Paradise do have individual playlists that are up on the channel. I will link them in the description below. And I do invite you to go watch each one of them so you can get a deeper understanding of what's involved in each of those cruises. This particular vlog is going to compare and contrast the two to help you determine which one you would want to do, if you would want to do either one of them at all. In order to start this compare and contrast, we're going to start at the beginning where every cruise starts off, and that's going to be parking. Now, the Margaritaville at Sea Islander does port out of the port of Tampa on Terminal 6. We went there. We dropped our luggage off, and literally, we parked it right across the street. It was off-site parking, but it was literally right across the street, and actually only cost us $24 for the entire time. 4-night cruise cost us $24. You can't beat that. In contrast, the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise, which goes out of the port of Palm Beach, parking there is completely different. It cost us $57 for a 2-night cruise to park in Palm Beach. Now, again, the parking was right there. In both situations, the parking was uncovered. It was monitored, but it was about twice as much to park in Palm Beach as it was to park in Tampa. So just based on that alone, I'm going to give the advantage to the Islander. Once we parked, the next thing is embarking onto the ship. The embarkation process for both ships is exactly the same. A week or so ahead of time, we got an email that says, here's your boarding time. I think both of them were 11:30 to 12 in that time range. You go through security. Once you're through security, you go up to your desk agent, they're the ones that check you in. They're the ones that make sure you have all your proper travel documentations, your boarding pass. They take your picture. They also, at that point, that's when you will give them your credit card to put down on your room for incidental charges throughout the time. But also during that time, they do give you your room key. So you don't have to wait for that. They give it right then and there. And then once you finish that, you can go straight onto the ship. But unfortunately, that's where the similarities stop. And honest to goodness, on the Islander, it took us at least 55 minutes to an hour to get through that whole process. Well, first of all, we had to wait outside for a few minutes. Then we got into the terminal, had to wait to get through security. Once we were through security, we went into another room, and that room zigzagged back and forth until we got to the desk agent, and they were the ones that actually checked us in and gave us everything there. So that whole process, like I said, took about 55 minutes. In contrast, the Paradise, from the time that we parked our car to the time that we were eating a cheeseburger in Paradise, was maybe 30 minutes total. Quite honestly, in that 30 minutes that it took us to get through that whole process, 10 minutes of it was us standing outside trying to figure out where we needed to go because there was nobody out there helping us. We finally said, hey, here's our boarding pass. It's our time to go. But they sent us right into the building. We breezed through security, went upstairs, did our check-in, and the whole, like I said, literally the whole process from parking our car to eating a cheeseburger in Paradise was 30 minutes. In this case, advantage Paradise. We knew exactly what we were going to do. Once we got onto the ship, we headed straight to cheeseburger in Paradise. And I knew exactly how I wanted my cheeseburger in Paradise. I wanted mine with lettuce and tomatoes, Heinz 57 and French fried potatoes, big kosher pickle and a cold draft beer. Oh my goodness, I wanted that. I went up there, told the guy, I said, load me up. He took the bun, put the cheeseburger on there, loaded me up with the lettuce, with the tomatoes, with the onion, with the pickle, and the special sauce. Put a big old pile of fries on there. and said, enjoy. And enjoy is exactly what I did. I love that burger. It was great. Honestly, for me personally, that burger right there was better than any guy's burger on Carnival Cruise Line. Except maybe the pizza burger on the Firenze and the Venezia, because those are unique burgers, and they were actually pretty darn good. Not good for my heart, but good for my belly. When I got home from the Islander, I bragged about how good the cheeseburger in Paradise was. So, that's the first thing we do when we get on the Paradise. The wifey and I, we head to Cheeseburger in Paradise. And we go up there and we say, give me a cheeseburger. And he said, okay, give us a bun and a cheeseburger. And about 10 fries. That's no exaggeration. That's all they had. All the other toppings, the lettuce, tomatoes, pickles, onions, and everything like that was actually on a bar, like a salad bar, a few feet away. I was sorely disappointed because there was no sauce. Embarkation day on the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise, there was no special sauce that they put on the cheeseburger in Paradise. So it was just a cheeseburger. And not a very good one at that. Definitely, when it comes to cheeseburger in Paradise, advantage Islander. About the time we finished up our cheeseburger in Paradise, the announcement came over the intercom that said, beep, your rooms are ready. So we go to our rooms. On the Islander, we actually had a breezy balcony stateroom. And honestly, it looks like every other balcony stateroom you've been on any other cruise ship. You walk into the cabin, you've got closets on one side, you've got a bathroom on the other side. You go into the main room, you've got a little desk, you've got a couch, you've got the beds, you've got your TV mounted on the wall. You walk past your beds and you're going to go outside onto your balcony. Your balcony's got 2 chairs and a table. The layout is exactly the same as almost every other balcony cabin that you've ever been on any cruise ship. However, very well decorated, very well on theme to everything that is Jimmy Buffett, to everything that is cruising on island time, to everything that is a license to chill. The biggest downfall to the room is that there's only one 110 outlet in the entire cabin. In our case, because we had 2 people in that room, both of us had multiple cameras that needed to be charged every night. Both of us were CPAP wearers, so those had to be plugged in. There was a lot of things plugged in, so we had a lot of extension cords. On each side of the twin beds that we had, there was a little light that did have a USB outlet in there, so that was a great thing. We did have the ability to charge things through the lamp, so that's a wonderful thing. Now, when we got on the Paradise, we had an ocean view room, because honestly, on the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise, there's only maybe 10 balcony rooms, and they're all suites. So everything else is either an interior or an ocean view room. We had an ocean view room. Again, it's laid out very similar to any other cruise ship you've ever been on and what their ocean view rooms are like. You walk in the main cabin, you've got closets on one side, bathrooms on the other. You go into the main part of the room, you've got a desk. You actually have a Murphy bed on there as well. So if you have 3 or 4 people in that room, the bed would come down from one of the closet areas right there. Then you have your bed, then you have your window that's there against the wall. Perfect. Looks like every other room. It was very spacious. The theming of the cabin was very in line with the Margaritaville at Sea brand. It was very chill. It was very Jimmy Buffett, and it was very nice. It was smelled clean for being a 34, 35-year-old ship. There was only one 110 outlet, and that was on the floor underneath the desk. There was only one USB port, and that was over on the wall where the window was. So there was not a whole lot of opportunity to plug anything in, to charge things. Luckily for us, we have a cruise line approved surge protector that's got outlets and also USB ports so that we could charge multiple things at the same time. The biggest downfall to the cabin on the Paradise was definitely the bathroom, and more specifically, the shower. Because I promise you this, that shower was no bigger than maybe a 2-foot in diameter circle. But that kind of makes sense because the ship is tiny. The ship is 35 years old. It was not designed for today's cruisers. But other than that, the room was exactly what we wanted it to be. The beds were comfortable. The pillows were comfortable. We slept great. But between the Islander and the Paradise, it is actually a tie because they serve their purpose. We're not in the room. We don't spend a whole lot of time in the room on any cruise ship. But the room served its purpose. We slept great. They had no problem sleeping. The rooms were dark. The rooms were cold. The rooms were comfortable. And so No advantage to either one of them. After checking out our cabin for a little bit, walking around the ship, trying to explore things, and figuring out where things are at, we had the muster drill. Both Margaritaville at Sea ships in their fleet do the old school muster drill. And when I mean old school muster drill, on the Islander, we were told a time. We knew we had to go to B3. Everybody on the ship literally walked outside in the Tampa heat, stood shoulder to shoulder, about 5 people deep in line on the deck, waiting for our safety instructions. I'm talking like that old school. Unfortunately for us, when we were waiting, the sun was coming down right in our faces. We're standing there outside in the heat, waiting for the cruise director to go through all the safety drills, all the safety instructions, and then let us go back in. No bueno. In contrast, we go on the Paradise. Paradise still has, I guess you could call it the old school muster drill, but there's really no place outside for anybody to go. So everybody had a designated area inside the ship. For us, based on our floor where we were on deck 6. We were supposed to go to the coffee lounge. We went to the coffee lounge, sat and sat and sat. The whole lounge was full of people from various decks. That's where they had to go in, and it took about 40 minutes to go through the entire safety process. The good thing is we were actually inside, didn't have to worry about being out in the heat. The bad part about it is if you've ever done a cruise here recently, pretty much since COVID, where you go and you scan your card and they take about 2 minutes to tell you how to put on a life jacket, those days are not happening on the Margaritaville at Sea fleet. But in this case, it's going to be Advantage Paradise because we were inside. After the muster drill, we go into the sail away party, which is great because everybody loves a good sail away party. However, on both ships, on both cruises, 1 to 4 night, 1 to 2 night, this was the only deck party that they had. There was no 80s night, there was no 90s night, there was no silent disco, there was no white party, there was no other deck parties other than the sail away party. And actually, contrary to popular belief, neither Margaritaville at Sea ship was a huge party ship when we were on there. Sure, you had people that were drinking, you had people that were having a great time, but it wasn't a party ship at all on either one of them. Now, don't get me wrong, because everybody on both ships was having a great time, everybody was enjoying themselves, but it wasn't a party. It was everybody was enjoying themselves in a relaxed, chill environment. When it comes to the actual sail away party, the Islanders seem to have a little bit more excitement going on. More people involved, more crew involved, and just a more fun vibe going on versus the Paradise, which was a great time. Don't get me wrong, it was a lot of fun. People were out there dancing. On both ships, everybody was doing the same line dancing. You know, you've got your wobble, and you've got your electric slide, and you've got your hokey pokey, and you have your Cupid shuffle. Everybody's doing those, and everybody's having a great time. Even doing a conga line and a limbo. It was a great time. Everybody had a great time. But looking at the two of them, the Islander just felt a little bit more exciting, a little bit more fun, a little bit more participation involved with people. So based on that, I'm going to give advantage to the Islander for their sail away party. After the sail away party, which we had a great time at, we went back to our room, got cleaned up a little bit, then went to dinner in the main dining room. Neither ship has a set dining time for anybody. It is always just a come when you're ready to eat. If we can seat you right then, great, we'll seat you. If not, we'll give you a pager. Like old school restaurants, we'll give you a pager. We'll buzz you when your table is ready, then we'll go seat you. The menu on both ships when it comes to dinner in the main dining room is very similar to each other. You're going to have 7 to 8 appetizers, which you can pick 2 or 3 of those if you want to. You're going to have 5 to 7 entrees, which you can pick one. One's included. If you wanted to go to another entree, you want to do 2 entrees or 3 entrees, they're going to be $7 to $8 each of those. And then when it comes to desserts, you're going to have 3, maybe 4 options for desserts. Along with the limited menu, there's not always a red meat option every night for dinner in the main dining room. So if you're a cruiser that loves your red meat, you love your steaks, you love having a steak as an option, the only steak that is an option is going to be a filet, which is going to be a $20 upcharge. On either ship that you would go on, whether it be the Islander or the Paradise, if you're a picky eater, like a texture thing or a no seafood thing or something like that, you may struggle sometimes finding things to eat in the main dining room. When it comes to the staff in the main dining room, they could not be any more polar opposite of each other. And I say that when we go into the Islander, we go to dinner that first night. The hotel manager and the restaurant manager were there. They were talking to each other. They see Rob and I coming. They stop their conversation, greet the two of us by name. They then asked us how we were doing, walked us to our table, completely bypassed everybody that was in line. At that particular time, there was about a 20 to 25 minute wait for a table. Yeah, we waited about 20 seconds. And the entire time we were seated at dinner, no fewer than 3 other servers came over to check on us, make sure we had everything that we wanted, as well as the maitre d' and the restaurant manager came over, introduced themselves, made sure that we were doing okay, to see if we needed anything, and they were going to help us out no matter what. In contrast, when we went to go have dinner in the main dining room and on the Paradise, they initially told us it was going to be a 45-minute wait, gave us a buzzer. But what was strange is when we get into the dining room, it is maybe half full. So I don't know if they were running behind or they were just understaffed, or what the situation was. It didn't seem like there was any reason to wait that long. But once we sat down, I personally, and so did my wife, we both felt extremely rushed through the whole thing. It was maybe, here's your menu. Okay, what do you want? Honestly, it was like 30 seconds in time frame in between there. There wasn't a lot of time to look at the menu. There wasn't a lot of time to discuss it. And it just felt rushed the entire time. Also, in the main dining room, they said they have sugar-free options for dessert. So my wife says, hey, what are your sugar-free options for dessert? And the server started talking. She kind of talked around herself and got to the point where she said, well, the chef would have to come out and they would have to look at something and this, that, and the other. Or you can just get a fruit plate. So my wife said, fine, just give me the fruit plate. Which the fruit plate looked good. Don't get me wrong. But it was just, seemed to be more of an inconvenience to ask for a sugar-free dessert than it was anything else. So in this case, 100% advantage to the Islander when it comes to the main dining room. On both cruises, we did the sparkling wine brunch, which is exactly what you think it is. It is a brunch that includes sparkling wine. You can either have like a sparkling wine, a Bloody Mary, mimosas, or Bellinis. I do believe from the time we went in February on the Islander to the time we went in April on the Paradise, I do believe that some of the things for the sparkling brunch had changed. For example, on the Islander, when Rob and I walked into the brunch, we were each handed a mimosa and guided to our table. When we were about 3/4 of the way through that mimosa, our server came in and said, hey guys, do you want another mimosa? We're like, sure. Which both of those mimosas were more champagne than orange juice. So I'm not really complaining. It was bottomless at that point, so I'm fine with that. In contrast, we go to have brunch on the Paradise. Same sparkling wine brunch, same upcharge. They don't ask us if we want a mimosa or a Bellini or anything like that. We have to ask if we can have one. And then the table next to us finishes their first mimosas. They said, hey, we want another one. The guy says, oh, sorry, there's only one included. I can only give you one if you pay for it or you have the drink package. They said, we got the drink package, don't worry about it. So then he brought them mimosas. So sometime between February on the Islander and April on the Paradise, maybe or maybe it's the Islander versus the Paradise, but there were no bottomless mimosas or bottomless Bellinis or sparkling wine. But then when it comes to ordering, on the Islander, we got to pick something from their lighter fare, which is kind of their appetizer type thing. We got to pick one of those. We could pick something from the lunch menu, which is going to have your burgers, your steak and eggs, things like that. Or something from the brunch menu, which is going to have your eggs Benedict, your overnight French toast, things like that. We could only pick one from one of those. So you didn't get one of each, you only got one. And then you could pick some kind of dessert. In contrast, on the Paradise, there was no appetizer type thing. They just had a lunch side and a brunch side. And you could pick one from each one of those. But it was not clear that you could do that. Because of the 4 of us sitting at the table, 3 of us ordered 2 things. And my wife wasn't quite sure, only ordered the one thing. And we were thinking, okay, if we're going to order 2, we're probably going to get charged $7 or something like that. Not that big of a deal. They didn't charge us at all. So I'm not really sure what we were allowed to have if they didn't do something right, because nothing was explained to us. There on the Paradise, there was zero communication as far as what we could order, what we could not order, what was included, what was not included. And even the menus from the Islander and the Paradise, they were not the same menu. They had some of the same items, but not the same. For example, the Islander had an Eggs Benedict. The Paradise didn't. The Paradise had what they called Mexican avocado toast. The Islander didn't. So there was no real continuity between the two ships. So even though they're both Margaritaville at sea, they're two totally separate brunch menus, two totally separate ways to do brunch. In this case, 100% advantage Islander. Continuing on with the food comparison, if you watch the recap that the wifey and I did on the Paradise, you will know without a doubt the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise has the worst pizza ever on any cruise line. And when I say that, and I said it then and I'll say it again, I would much rather have an English muffin pizza that my mom makes or that my kids make with spaghetti sauce and flappy cheese in the microwave than have the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise pizza again. It was so bad at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the person that was working the pizza station was sitting down. There was nobody in line, and the pizza station was spotless. Have you ever been on a cruise ship where the pizza area is spotless? As in there was like no flour, no semolina, no nothing like that. But the hot box was full of pizza and nobody was eating it. Before we got onto the Paradise, they had actually moved Frank and Lola's Pizza, which initially was a paid upcharge for the pizza. They moved that from the area next to the coffee shop up into the buffet. And then where the pizza was next to the coffee shop, they actually turned that into an upcharge Farside Sushi restaurant. So the pizza is now included in the price. It's now on the buffet. And honest to goodness, if you paid for that pizza, I am so sorry. Y'all need a refund. Now, let's talk about the pizza on the Islander. The pizza on the Islander was on the buffet from the entire time. But it was not the best pizza either. And what was strange about it is they had 2 different types of crust depending on what time you went during the day. For example, when they first opened in the pizza until about 7 o'clock or so, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, it's going to be a thinner crust pizza, very similar to what you would find on some of the other ones. And it tasted okay. The crust didn't have a lot of flavor to it. The sauce didn't have a lot of flavor to it. But it was hot and edible. But then come 7, 8 o'clock in the evening until they closed, it went to a different pizza crust, which is going to be more of a thicker, almost like a focaccia bread type crust, but without the olive oil and the spices on there. But honestly, it's not a fair comparison to go to the 2 pizzas. The Paradise is just horrible, horrible pizza. In this case, honestly, advantage Islander, but even then, it wasn't the best pizza you could ever have on a cruise ship. Obviously, both ships had a buffet, and the buffets were relatively similar to each other. Neither one of them had an overabundance of options. Specifically, when it would come to your salad bar, you would have your lettuce mixture, you would have onions, tomatoes, broccoli, cauliflower, carrots. That would be it. Versus having multiple options, which you would have all those things, plus you would have eggs and turkey and a couple different kinds of cheeses and sunflower seeds and bacon bits. That was not there. The buffet on both of the ships was very telling and very poignant that it was a budget cruise. They did not have all the options that you might want on the buffet, but they had enough to satisfy everybody. On either cruise, we didn't eat at the buffet a whole lot. We had 1 meal each at the buffet. On the Islander, we had breakfast, which it had your typical breakfast things. Your pancakes, your French toast, your bacon, your eggs. Very basic, very simple. We had lunch on the Paradise, which had a pretty good spread on some of the things. It also had a hot dog bar and a taco bar that were there every day for lunch. On the Islander, we did walk through the buffet at dinner time just to see what was there. But then again, they had a limited amount of options available. They would have a chicken dish, they would have a red meat dish, and they would have a couple seafood dishes. Wasn't anything extensive. On the Paradise, we also walked through the buffet one night. They actually had a full Thanksgiving dinner set up. They had turkey on the carving station with mashed potatoes and gravy. Well, we'll call it gravy, but it looked more like colored water because it was extremely, extremely thin. They had dressing, they had cranberry sauce, they had everything set out for a Thanksgiving dinner. I think I would have rather had Thanksgiving dinner from the buffet than what we ate in the main dining room that night. When it comes to the buffet on both ships, you can definitely tell that it is a budget cruise line. There's not a lot of options available, but the options that they do have are done fairly well. For me, and looking at the two, when it comes to the buffet, it's a tie. For me, at least. Both ships, both the Islander and the Paradise, did have a Far Side Sushi. They also had the JWB Prime Steakhouse. On the Paradise, because it was a micro 2-night cruise, we did not have time to eat everywhere. But on the Islander, we did eat at both the Far Side Sushi and the JWB Prime Steakhouse. I will tell you, for me, I love sushi, and the Far Side Sushi, for me, was the best sushi I've ever had on a cruise ship. The rolls were huge, they were good, they tasted great, and they were a nice price. It was $10 per roll, which is about what you would expect to pay. On the contrary, the steakhouse was a $55 upcharge. We ate there. It was okay at best. It was mediocre in the sense that you are limited as to what you can do. And by limited, I mean that you can either have a soup or a salad. Then you get your entree. You pick whatever you want, a steak or a chicken or a pork chop or shrimp. You get that. Then you get one side item and you get one sauce for your steak. You can't try a couple different things. If you want a chimichurri sauce or you want a steak sauce, you only get one. Both of the ships do have a coffee shop. We did not go to the coffee shop on either one of them. They were not included in your cruise fare. They are an extra charge. That doesn't mean we didn't go, but I'm a simple black coffee guy. And honestly, when we thought about the coffee shop, we had already had enough coffee for the day, so we just didn't go to the coffee shop. But I heard no complaints from anybody that we were with that actually went to the coffee shop. Everybody said it tasted great. It tasted what they were wanting. So that's a plus. Additionally, on the Islander, they did have the Mexican Cutie Cantina, which served tacos and burritos. They also have a tiki grill and an Island Eats, which are going to have chicken wings and lobster rolls and crab legs by the pound. And they're also going to have some Asian-inspired dishes and seafood dishes. We were able to partake in all of that on the Islander because of the package that we did have. We had an ultimate chill package, which had food credits to everywhere on the ship. So we ate a lot. To the point where that last night on the cruise ship, we actually invited friends to come have dinner with us because we could not eat all the food that they had given us credit for. So we were like bringing friends on there to have dinner. But on the flip side, the Paradise had a deli where the Islander didn't. We had lunch at the deli on the Paradise, and it was really good. My wife had an adult grilled cheese sandwich. The wifey had an adult grilled cheese sandwich on sourdough bread. And I had like an Italian grinder. So no complaints whatsoever about the deli. I actually like the fact that they had a deli. And if they had a deli on the Islander, I would love that too. But overall, when it comes to the food, I'm going to give advantage to the Islander because they do have a lot more options that are included. When it comes to comparing the drinks and the bars on the ships, I really don't feel comfortable giving that comparison because honestly, I didn't drink a whole lot on either ship. I might have had one, maybe two drinks on both ships. I will tell you that the margaritas are great. They will give margaritas away for everything. If you volunteer to do something, you get a margarita. If you win a prize, you get a margarita. So they're giving away margaritas like Oprah gives away cars. You get a margarita, and you get a margarita, and you get a margarita. And honestly, just by walking around the ship, seeing the layout of the ship, seeing where the bars were at, what drinks they had available, definitely advantage to the Islander when it comes to the bars and the drinks. And just walking around the ship, seeing where the bars were at, what was going on at each of the bars, definitely advantage to the Islander because they do have a lot more opportunities, a lot more places to have drinks. On to the entertainment side of things. Now, it makes 100% perfect sense that a ship after Jimmy Buffett would have a lot of live entertainment. And they do. Both of them. Both the Islander and the Paradise are full of entertainers. there's live entertainment, live music all over the place. It could be one person playing guitar and singing. It could be a duet. It could be a whole band. It could be a steel drummer. It could be a violinist. Plenty of live entertainment all over the ship, and I'm here for it. I actually love the live entertainment. Now, the Islander, because it is a bigger ship, they do have more opportunity to have more live entertainment. The Islander also had space for a comedian to bring in. So they had a lot more entertainment options on the Islander than they did on the Paradise. The entertainment staff on both of the ships were absolutely wonderful. We walked onto the Paradise and met Svetlana right away because we both had the same shirt. It's kind of funny that the entertainment staff on the Paradise, all of their shirts came from Amazon, and I only know that because I have all their shirts and I had them before we went on that cruise. Obviously, being two separate ships, you have separate entertainment staffs because people can't be in two places at one time. On the Islander, one of the theme nights was country, or what they call Boots and Bubbles. And the show in the Stars on the Water Theater that night, they had an early show and a late show, and it was Conky Tonkin, which was a country music themed show, which was great. It was good. It actually made sense. The songs made sense. It did tell a story. All the musicians were there, and the live band played throughout. So the singers were not singing to a soundtrack type thing. They were actually singing to the band playing live. Another night on the cruise on the Islander, they had what they call the Rock. I don't know what it's called. But the show that they had was Caribbean Heat. Same type of thing. They had the songs, the dance, the live band playing. It was a good show. They had an early show and a late show. So the 2 nights that they had shows, it was the same show that they had twice. Going over to the Paradise, because it was only a 2-night cruise, they weren't doing multiple showings of the same show. You had one time to see it. If you didn't see it, oh well. So the first night they had Caribbean Heat, and then after that they had a show called Margaritaville at Sea live on the air. We didn't see Caribbean Heat because I'd seen that one before, and it was good, but it wasn't necessarily worth going to. So we did go to the Margaritaville at Sea at live on air, which was a mock radio show. Very good. The cruise director Terry was involved in everything. It was a good show. Again, live band, made perfect sense, and it flowed well. The second night of the micro cruise, the early show was a juggler type spinny thing guy, acrobatic guy. We didn't go to that one. We were at dinner, missed that one. But we did go to the second show, which was the Love and Marriage show, which, like I mentioned, was probably one of the funniest ones we'd ever been on. It helped the fact that the newlywed couple that they chose, both her parents and his parents were on the cruise with them. But based on some of their answers, that definitely made for a interesting car ride home, I would think. Between the two of them, it's really hard to pick which one had a better entertainment than the other one. You cannot go wrong with the entertainment on either one of them. The Islander had more options, but I think I'm going to give the advantage to the Paradise just because their shows in the main theater, it was more of a variety of shows. Now we're coming to the end, and we're going to do a ship-to-ship comparison. And honestly, I don't think this is a fair comparison between the two. Comparing the two is like comparing apples to pineapples. They might contain a very similar word, but they're not anywhere close to the same. So honestly, you're comparing a cruise ship and a ferry boat, in my opinion, with the Paradise being the ferry boat. I would say, honestly, the Paradise is a cruise ship in name only. It doesn't feel like a cruise ship. It doesn't act like a cruise ship. It just acts like a ferry boat running between West Palm and the Bahamas. It's like a ferry boat with cabins. Now, do not get me wrong. The theming in the common areas, the theming in the cabins is spot on to what they're looking for. There's a lot of chill, relaxing places to be. A lot of couches, a lot of open places, a lot of places that just chill and relax. To me, that's really what Margaritaville at Sea is all about. It's just a chill vibe. What's a chill vibe? Just relaxed. There's not a lot of pressure to go, oh, I have to go here to go to this crazy 10-minute sail. I have to go here because the app tells me to go here. It's just a time to relax and have a good time. If you want to socialize with other people, Margaritaville at Sea is perfect because there's plenty of areas to do that. But overall, the Paradise does not have a cruise ship feeling. The flip-flop atrium where you come into the ship, it's not a grand atrium. It's not open 8 or 9 decks tall. They've got the big blue flip-flop in there, but then it's tiled all around it, and to me, it feels like I'm in an indoor swimming pool. Now, we do have to take into consideration that the ship was finished being built in 1991 for Costa, which is a European cruise line, which we all know that Europe and America cruise differently. Plus, the cruising industry as a whole has changed in 35 years. In contrast, the Islander is more in line with what I personally would consider a cruise ship, being that it was one of the 16 different cruise ships that I've been on. It was more in line with what I'm used to. If you have ever cruised on a Carnival Spirit class ship, it's extremely similar to that. The layout is almost identical to a Spirit class, like the Spirit, the Legend, and the Miracle. And I would assume it's very similar to a Radiance class ship on Royal Caribbean. They're all about the same gross tonnage, which doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. But they're all about the same size. The flip-flop atrium was grand. It was open all the way to the top. You had the windows up there. Gorgeous, well-themed. And the atrium was also a center of attention and a center focal point for everything. You had to go in and out through the atrium to go almost anywhere. And that was great. That was what they were looking for. You had a nice, colorful flip-flop. Had a bar right there. It was beautiful. And it was exactly what you would consider a cruise ship to be. The Paradise had that the Islander didn't, that I really liked, was the fact that it had a little chapel. So you know it's an older one because a lot of cruise lines right now, they're not putting chapels in, or where they had a chapel before, it's somewhere else. So if they're doing weddings, they're in the piano bar or they're in a lounge or something like that. But the fact that they did have a little chapel, it's at maybe 15 people or so. I like that fact. Both ships had plenty of seating around the pool area, although the pool on the Paradise was small. It said max 18 people. There was plenty of lounge seats around the pool, plenty of lounging around on the other decks. The Islander did also have a water slide where the Paradise didn't have anything. So 100% advantage to the Islander when it comes to overall ship, because it is a cruise ship and not a ferry boat like the Paradise. Given all that we had just talked about, I would 100% gladly, every day of the week and twice on Sunday, pick the Margaritaville at Sea Islander over the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise. The Margaritaville at Sea Paradise is not a bad ship. To me, it's more one of these quick, hey, I need to get out of town for a couple days just to clear my mind. Or if you're local to the Palm Beach area, it's a very good bachelorette type ship. Just to get away, just to have some fun, go down to the Bahamas, have a great day in Nassau or Freeport, and then come back. Perfect for that. It is not, repeat, it is not a destination cruise. By destination cruise, I mean one of those like, hey, I'm going to Palm Beach. This is my one vacation for the year on the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise. It is not that. In contrast, the Margaritaville at Sea Islander is that ship. It is that ship that you want to spend 5, 6, 7 nights on because it is a great ship. It's perfect for that first-time cruiser who wants to dip their toes in to see if they really want to get involved in cruising, because as we all know, cruising is one of the best addictions to have. It's great for a seasoned cruiser and a novice cruiser. There's enough to do to keep everybody busy, but it's not so busy that you can't find the time to just relax and chill. Which ultimately, after going on both of these, that's exactly what Margaritaville at Sea is looking for. They want to give everybody that goes onto their ships just a relaxing time, a chill time. As a cruise line, to me, they keep everything simple. They do not overcomplicate things. It is what it is, and it is a fun time for everybody. Have you been on these ships? Have you been on the Margaritaville at Sea Islander or the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise? If you have, drop the comment below of which one you were on. Or if you were on both of them, put it on there. Also, while you're putting that comment on there, which one you were, put in the comments if you agree or disagree with how I rate these two ships. If you like my compare and contrast and you agree with me, put that comment down there. If you disagree with it and you think I'm totally full of it and nothing is accurate, then put that too. It's a healthy discussion, and that's all I'm looking for, is a healthy discussion between everybody so that we can broaden the horizons of people and maybe either steer them to a good ship or steer them away from a bad time. So just put it down there in the comments. And as you're there in the comments, go ahead and put a thumbs up to this video that you like it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It doesn't cost you anything and does help me. It helps me bring cruise news vlogs or daily vlogs, food rating or rating cruise ships, or anything in the cruise industry. It does help me bring those to you. And like I said, it doesn't cost you anything, so I would appreciate it. Subscribe and also ring that bell so that you get notified when we do upload videos. We do upload generally about 2 videos a week. One of them for cruise news and one of them for cruise review stuff. But no matter if you go on the Islander or the Paradise, we always have to remember that a cruise day is better than a work day any day. And I wish a Merry Cruising to all, and to all a good night.